topic is there's no place like home, you know, and it's about home, but it's also our deeper focus is going to be about the hero's journey, which starts and ends at home, right? It starts in a place where we know everything, it's all known, it's ordinary, and we're transported into a place that's not ordinary. Um, and that transformation happens, and then we come back to our home, but we're never the same person. And so we're going to talk about that over the month. And the one of the best stories about the hero's journey or heroine's journey is Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. You know, it's a dazzling example. And I remember, you know, watching it. We didn't get to color TV for at least 5 years after everybody else. But when you go from the sepia colored brown and white to color, Technicolor, it was fabulous. You know that you are not in Kansas anymore. And it's just an amazing transformation that occurs. And as that, you know, I'm going to just repeat this story. If you want to watch it, it is free this month on TBS if you want to have commercials, or without commercials, you can watch it on HBO Max or pay for it $3.99, I think, on Prime, and watch it. But it's during November. And so as the story begins, Dorothy is, you know, she's at home and she's in that comfortable yet very drab sepia colored farm in Kansas. And it's a place of shelter and safety. She's cared for, but it's also constriction, right? And so as she decides to run away, because this mean lady is going to take her dog Toto away. And so as she's running away, she runs into this kindly traveling magician who suggests that maybe she should consider returning home because her dearest Auntie M has a broken heart. And so Dorothy makes this quick internal shift and she says, "Oh, I'm definitely going back home." And so she's heading home and a tornado comes. And so her family makes it into the tornado shelter, but she's too late. And so she ends up in her house, hits her head, and she's transported to Oz. Right. So as she navigates the trials and tribulations of finding her way home, she has a battle with the angry, wicked witch of the West, who's, you know, because her house fell on her, the wicked witch of the East, and killed her, and the ruby slippers, the good witch Glinda has put them onto Dorothy's feet. Right now, along the way, as she goes to try and find the wizard, she's assisted by several friends and allies. So besides the good witch Glinda, she meets the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion. Right. And so they all go off to find the wizard. Now, during this whole trials and tribulations, she slays the dragon, the witch, who's representing that horrible lady. And each one of them goes through some kind of inner transformation, right? The lion finds courage. The Scarecrow finds wisdom with his empty brain that he thought, and the Tin Man finds a heart to fill his empty chest and aching. And so, but at the ending, she kills the witch just by trying to save, put out the fire, and the bucket of water also destroys the witch. And there's a great scene when the witch is just going down into the ground, and she says, "Oh, someone like you to destroy all my lovely wickedness," or something like that. You know, it's quite a change. But so, you know, in victory, they go off to find the wizard, and finally, you know, with some argument, make their way in to see the wizard and find out that he's an imposter. And so he can't really give them the promised rewards. But the wizard does give each one of them an outer symbol of the inner transformation, right? Some kind of award that they can wear. Dorothy can't take her home quite so well. So he's, "Okay, I'm going to take you myself in my hot air balloon." But Toto again runs away, and she hops out, and off goes the balloon, and here's Dorothy. And so Glinda comes in, and the good witch, and says, "You know, you've had the power to go home all the time. What you need to do is click your ruby slippers 3 times, 1, 2, 3, and say, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. And magically, Dorothy is transported back to her bedroom in the drab farmhouse. But around her are all the people that love her. And so she tells them about this marvelous journey that she's been through, this great transformation. And they say, that's nice, honey. They're just dismissing her again. But she ends with the story saying, but anyway, Toto, we're home. Home. And this is my room, and you're all here, and I'm not going to leave here ever, ever again because I love you all. But she's not the same girl that left. She's had an inner transformation. Her perception of where she is totally different because she knows that she is loved and all is well. Right. Now, the hero's journey is also known as the monomyth, which is a term that was coined by Joseph Campbell in his 1990 book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces. And Campbell is an amazing scholar. He read all kinds of myths and stories from centuries and centuries from all around the world of living and fictional people that different cultures have codified. And it captures the values and the lessons that they want to pass down through the generations. You know, stories have an amazing way. When you read them when you're young, you hear one thing. And as you get older and hear the same story again and again, you learn something new because we've evolved over time in our lives. And so whatever lesson we're ready for comes out of that story for us, right? Now, every hero or heroine's journey contains three basic phases that are further divided into three basic steps. And we have a slide here of the hero's journey. And so it's a cycle, it's a pathway. And so you go from the known world of home, the ordinary, and then you go through, there's some kind of triggering event that goes through, and you go into the unknown world, this magical world. And you go through this whole process of there are, if you look at it, there's the call to adventure, and you go through the triggering event. So then there's a mentor perhaps that maybe you're afraid to go into the next world. And so there's going to be a mentor that's going to guide you. And then perhaps the mentor usually can't follow you, but you've got to go by yourself, right? Now you've got to leave all of the comfort and the training that your parents gave you growing up or whatever, and you're on your own. But then you're going to find some helpers along the way. You know, you're going to find your Tin Man and your Scarecrow and your Lion, and hopefully a Glinda, right? And then we have, but then you have all the challenges that occur, but you're learning and building up the strength of your muscles and understanding. And then there's some great cataclysmic event. It's really facing death at some level, and that's where the transformation occurs, right? And then you start coming back and preparing to go home. And then finally, when you do come back, you're bringing back some kind of special elixir or some kind of special wisdom or some special gift. Now, these are our divine gifts, right? And so we learn how to apply those gifts and share them with the world, right? Someone that had a difficult childhood and parents that were abusive or something, they become a counselor to work with kids that are going through something similar to themselves, or someone that went through poverty, they want to share their wealth, or someone that had a spiritual transformation, they become a minister. Whatever it is, there's something like that you bring back. And so it's a process that happens, and it can happen more than once. Now, there's also the chance, though, that you didn't survive that great cataclysmic event, or you kind of chickened out, if you will. And Star Wars is a perfect example of this. If you fail, you become Darth Vader, right? And you are in this mechanical world that's constricted by this mask, and underneath is this kind of unformed person, right? That really can't be out in the world. But if you are successful, like his son Luke, then you're transformed and you come back. Or Han Solo is also transformed, right? There's all kinds of examples of the hero's journey, and I'm going to name a few, but they're not only in literature, in history, but they're also in a lot of movies, and great books now are written. There's all kinds of classes around the hero's journey that you can make your book. If you want to write a screenplay, this is a perfect template to use, right? So we have the Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. Jesus, after he was baptized by John the Baptist, he spent 40 days in the desert meditating. And then he began his ministry once he was clear on what he was to teach. Jonah, when he was swallowed by the whale, he spent his time of transformation under the water. And this is symbolic of when we let go of the ego of the conscious world and we go in. Water is always the subconscious, the spiritual world of transformation. And once he was transformed, he was spit out on the beach by the whale, and he was transformed. Moses, he went up into the mountain to speak to Yahweh in the burning bush, and he came back with the 10 Commandments, right? Now, Muhammad, he was an illiterate but financially successful trader. He'd married this wonderful rich woman, and he went to meditate in a mountain cave every day, right? And after many days of meditating, he was visited by the angel Gabriel, who told him to come back, and he dictated to Muhammad the Quran. And so then Muhammad had to repeat it back to a scribe that could write it down, because he couldn't write it down himself. But he was the channel for the words to come through. Some of the other books and movies that we have these days are, besides Star Wars, there's Harry Potter, The Sword and the Stone, the Lord of the Rings series. There are just many, many that we hear about. And another thing that happens is when you initiate on that journey, sometimes people proceed with an intention. Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to go out into the world, and I'm going to make this big change. But other people, it happens by accident, right? They're swept up by necessity. Just in the TV series that's going on these days, La Brea, there's a big pit that opens up around La Brea tar pits, and a whole bunch of people are sucked down into 10,000 BC, and their lives are transformed. How do they rise to the calling? Each one of them has their chance to be a hero or heroine of their own story. In the book Spiritual Economics, Eric Butterworth says, before you formulate a desire in mind, it is God in you desiring. Before you have an urge, there is a moving in spirit in you, prompting you in that direction, right? So this is the creative force always wanting to express itself in us and through us and as us, right? And so when we're in tune with spirit, then we have these gentle lessons, and we say, I hear you, spirit, and you step up to that calling and move forward. And it's urging us onward, guiding us. That guidance is always there because it's coming from within. But we aren't listening when we're ignoring it, when we're living in ego, when we think that the physical world and surviving or being very successful in this world is what it's all about. We miss that voice sometimes. And so what happens? That's when the dragons show up, right? Because spirit is going to get our attention one way or another. And, there's circumstances beyond our control sweep us into an unknown world. It could be a divorce or death, an illness, perhaps ours or someone else's, loss of a job, an addiction, COVID. That did it for everyone, right? And it could be when our society is transformed by war or fought over in the voting booth, right? Which way are we going to handle it? There's going to be a big change one way or the other this week coming for the US. But whatever the triggering event is, we can choose to react or respond. Now, in react, this is the traditional fight, or freeze. We get a choice. And this is what Dennis Merritt Jones was talking about in the reading this morning. So we can withdraw, we can don our armor and prepare for battle, get all ready, or we can respond. And Dennis Merritt Jones said, consider standing your ground and asking it what message that dragon brings, right? You can be the hero in your own life if you listen, because that dragon is a messenger of spirit, right? Sounds kind of scary, but, I think gentle lessons are much better than dragons, but if you want excitement, that's what we get. Um, Michael Beckwith, he puts it this way: pain pushes until vision pulls. Right. So if we're in pain, we need to find out what the reason is. And we're being pulled back by spirit. And spirit is always there within us. And we just have to be still and listen. Right. Now, coming back to the idea of home, the hero's journey begins and ends at home. And home is shelter, it's safety, it's constriction. It's a place where our parents have, maybe those constrictions are because our parents are really trying to protect us from the world, but to a youth that's really, young and ready to go out in the world, and idealism, they can feel repressed. How do I get out of this? And so there's this desire to break free of customs and rules and limitations. And it's actually a good thing that youth has such idealism, because that's the way we move forward as a society. They don't accept that just because it's always been that way, it should stay that way. Well, hopefully each generation gets it a little better than the one before. But eventually, for whatever reason, we have to eventually set out to explore that unknown and go into that world. Now, Joseph Campbell, I have the great book that there's the Hero with 1,000 Faces is a good one. And then this is one called The Power of Myth, which was a conversation that was on PBS between Joseph Campbell and Bill Moyers. And so it's an amazing, amazing book if you want to read some more about this. But Joseph Campbell has some wonderful quotes. One is, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek. Right. So that dragon, that seems so scary, there's a treasure there. And also, we must be willing to let go of the life that we planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us. Right. If we hang on to, we have a plan for our lives, and it's like, my first husband passed away of cancer. And so if I kept hanging on and just being stuck in that grief, I would have never had the life that I have now. I would have never met Michael. I would have never been here. I would have never become a minister. So we have to let go of the life that we plan to have the life that Spirit has planned for us. Now, when we look in looking at the three phases, one person that is a wonderful example of this is Buddha. Right. So Buddha, he was a prince born to wealth, and his father did not want him to see the suffering in the world. And so he sheltered him. He kept him within a palace area, and it was all brick walls all around. And he just stayed in there, and he had, everyone that took care of him was beautiful. There was no illness. There was, everything that he needed was there. Life was just blissful and wonderful. Right. But then as he grew up, he wanted to know what life was like beyond the gates. And so he asked his chariot driver to take him out into the world. And so on the first day that he went out, he saw this old man who was rather decrepit and, kind of hobbling along. And he said, "What is that?" And the driver said, "Well, that's age, old age." And the Buddha said, "Well, does everyone die? Does everyone age?" And he says, "Yes, all people age." So this was really traumatizing. So he went back into the gated area, protected area. But then again, he said, okay, I'm going to go look again and see if there's anything else. And so this time he saw someone who was ill. And again, his heart failed him. Right? If this is what life is really like, I don't see this. He went back inside. Then again, he came out, and this time he saw death. And so this was just too much. I mean, he wanted to seek deliverance from these destroyers of life. How do we get away from all of this into that blissful life that he's been living? And so he ventured out one more time. And this time he saw a holy man who lived at peace in compassion with the suffering of the world. So even though all of this was going on, he had this inner peace that allowed him to be there, to be compassionate with the people that were going through it. But there was this knowingness that there was this world within of peace, that divine place of love, of knowing that he's one with the divine, right? And so all of Buddhism is about dealing with suffering. And life is suffering. It happens. We can't change that, but it's how we respond to it, right? How do we respond as life goes on? So again, this this took him on a journey now where he had some more trials and tribulations as he eventually learned what that was like, and he found that middle way. It was not about giving up everything or having everything. There was a way in the middle. And so that once he learned that, then he taught it to other people. The person who left on that journey was not the same person that came back. George Moore, an Irish novelist, he says, a man travels the world over in search of what he needs, right? There's some great expedition, and he returns home to find it, right? What we've been looking for is always there at home. It's in our heart of hearts. It's always with us. It's those ruby slippers that we always have with us. But even more so, it's that inner knowing, right? As people go through this life journey, the hero's journey, people are transformed from an innocent child to a mature, self-actualized adult. In our society, we don't really have these rites of passage the way that a lot of societies had. And so they, this is what its life is like as a child, and this is what's life as an adult. And so you follow this form. Well, now in America, we want everybody to discover their own way, to be their own unique being, their own unique expression of the divine, which is great, but we don't have a template that everybody is all alike. So it's really important that we go through this inner transformation and connect with spirit and find out who we are, right? Ernest Holmes, in the Ernest Holmes Reader on Practical Wisdom, said, the Spirit of God is an undivided and indivisible wholeness. It fills all time with its presence and all space with the activity of its thought. Everyone is an incarnation of God, and a unique incarnation. We are all rooted in the one life. Your endeavor then is not so much to find God as it is to realize God's presence and to understand that this presence is always with you. Nothing can be nearer to you than that which is the very essence of your being. Your outward search culminates in the greatest of all possible discoveries, finding God at the center of your own being. Life flows up from within you. All right, this is an amazing experience. It's not out there. It's not in all of the stuff. It's just to know that we are one with spirit, that the presence and power of God is within us is an amazing transformation. And it's very empowering. And so when people come back from this journey, once they come to this realization from whatever process, then they can go back to a simple life, or they can use those gifts to serve a greater cause. It could be just in their family, or it could be something to serve humanity or nature or life or whatever is that calling. But now they have the spiritual maturity to do the work of their higher self, to be part of making the world a better place, to make, as we say in the Centers for Spiritual Living, to create a world that works for everyone, right? So consider your life. What phase are you in of your hero's journey? Are you home comfortable, but feeling like there's something more? Or maybe you're starting to venture out and, feeling that restlessness, maybe something needs to happen. Maybe you're in the middle of all the trials and tribulations, right? Knowing that, or maybe you're on the way home. You've created that success, and now you're coming back to creating something more. Where are you, right? Are you in safety, or are you in that other world? Perhaps you have already slain your dragon, or maybe there's a dragon that's there reminding you every day when you wake up right in front of you. Have you had that conversation with your dragon yet? Right? And finally, are you living your transcendent purpose? You know, and maybe are you showing up as an ally or a mentor for someone else on their journey? Right. So think about your next possible step. What is it? And know that the spirit within is ready to guide you to the next level of your growth and evolution. Let's take this to prayer. So we know that there is one God that is all life. It is that one infinite intelligence, that one infinite love that expresses itself in and through and as each and every part of its creation, including you and me and all of life as this planet, every planet, from one end of the universe to the other. And it is all God and it is all good. And we are one with spirit. And so we let go and let God lead us forward to transform us. We let go of those comfortable boundaries that have been holding us in, the boundaries that ego has laid out for us as to this is our purpose, this is our life. We dare not go beyond this, right? But there is something greater. It is not just that physical world, it is that inner world of spirit. That is where our growing edge resides. And so we seek to go beyond what we have known. We seek to discover our higher self, to express that divine intention for our lives. And so we venture out. And gratefully, we discover mentors and guides and helpers along the way. We find challenges that we can master with that inner guidance and with the help of our helpers. We discover that inner wisdom and strength that has always been within. And maybe we didn't dare to believe that it was there, but as we have these trials and tribulations, we really see and know that we can trust it. It is always there for us. What we need comes forward as we let go and let God be the truth in our lives. And we discover that we are one with spirit, one with the universe, with infinite love. We look at discord with infinite love and compassion, centered deeply in peace. We are transformed. We see the world transformed. We are a center of the presence and power of spirit in the midst of whatever is going on around us. As our country moves through this week of elections, spirit is within each and every person, within their hearts and their minds, guiding them to live from trust and love, to release fear and anger, and discover the experience of love and freedom, of knowing that we are all one and there is wholeness. And this is what we are about. And this day, the time has come for that love and wholeness and unity of purpose, of life, of supporting each other and our country to be an even greater expression of God, of infinite love in the world. And we allow that change to move forward. And there is a sense of peace and reassurance as we do this, trusting that all is well. The Spirit is in charge. There is nothing greater than Spirit. There is no place where God is not. It's in each and every ballot box. It's in each and every person. It's in each and every action. It's in each and every day and moment. We are all protected and guided and loved beyond measure. And it is with great gratitude that I recognize this world of peace and understanding and love. I trust that it is the truth. I trust in spirit as who I am and as who all people are. And as I let go and let God, I let this word be manifest right here and right now and all is well. Thank you, Father, Mother God. And so it is.